Hi, I've been waiting for you. You've just clicked on the Just Do the Damn Thing podcast. My name is Angie, and welcome to a brand new episode. Before we jump in, though, I believe it's important to set a clear intention for anything that we do in life. I want to explain to you the intention behind this podcast. Whilst I'm not a licensed therapist or a counselor, what I do have is my own lived life experience. I have been through many ups and downs in life, and I've had to overcome quite a bit during that time. I've also learned to get stronger and more confident in my life and the decisions that I've made. I have been asked by friends, family, and strangers who have been impacted by my story to share it with other people. And that's how I started this podcast. And now on to the episode. Have you ever felt like a complete and utter failure? Well, I have, and I felt this way so many times in my life. And I've been thinking about this a lot recently and reflecting back on just the weight on my shoulders that I carried around with me for years and years because I felt like I didn't measure up, that I wasn't good enough. And I was looking to everyone else that was around me. I was looking at my family. I was looking at my friends, sometimes even my colleagues. And something that I was doing just didn't feel right. It felt like I wasn't successful, and they were. And I think it started as early as me deciding that even though I had a law degree, that I wasn't going to pursue a career in law and I was going to be a teacher instead. I felt very looked down upon just based on comments that I had heard about my decisions. I felt that way when I've made various decisions in my life to get divorced and give up, quote unquote, my marriage and my lifestyle and decide to go in a different direction. And at various points, there have been so many comments and so much judgment that has been thrown my way about what I'm doing that I think that contributed so much to this feeling of failure that I carried around. And so I wanted to see if anyone else is feeling that way. And if you are, please stick to the end of this episode because you're going to find out the correlation between what you think success is, what society feels success is, and what true success is. So enjoy the episode. If I ask you to think of someone that you find successful, who pops into your mind? Why did that person pop into your mind? Is it because they're rich, wealthy? Do they have a nice car, a big house? Why did that particular person pop into your mind? Because today's episode is about redefining the word success for yourself and deciding what success means to you. I didn't love the movie The Matrix when I first watched it, and I don't know if I love it now, if I'm being honest. As I got older, though, I started to understand the premise of The Matrix as a metaphor for life. If you haven't seen this movie, you probably should see it for yourself. It's this concept that we're all plugged into a system where everyone is doing the same thing and we're just going through the motions of life. In the movie, people are going about their daily business, plugged into a system. I think many of us are also plugged into a system, going about our daily lives without even questioning whether that life is the one that we want to live, and is it the life we're choosing for ourselves? So much time is spent consuming social media, looking at adverts, and if you live in certain parts of the Western world, you are being shown a certain lifestyle that equates to success. You know, this idea of the 2.4 family in the suburban house with a white picket fence. Ever since I moved from England to America, I've been questioning this concept of success. It can be so difficult to realize that success is not just one version of life, especially when you live in a country that is often measured by what you do, how much you make, and the power and influence you have within your community. Oftentimes, at least where I live, when you meet someone, within the first 5 minutes of speaking to them, you know what they do for a living, where they live, how many kids they have, where their children go to school, and whether it's a private school or a public school in a great area. This is all designed to let you know where they are ranked on the social totem pole. Well, today I'm going to challenge you to push back on this idea that your value as a human being is tied to objective success, your home, your qualifications, what you do for a living, who you're married to, your social status, and your influence in the community. Over the years, I've reflected on how people have seen me depending on their measure of success. When I was married, a teacher with a nanny and a cleaner, a 4-bedroom house with a backyard and a pool, and a daughter in private school, but miserable and dead inside, going through the motions in life, the people around me viewed me as successful. But when I got divorced, pursued a new career, became a single mother, and moved to another state by myself into an apartment with no partner, suddenly those same people no longer viewed me as being successful, and I even lost so-called friends and family over it. That is until I decided to define my own version of success for myself. One day, I saw a video on YouTube, and I want to shout out the channel, Pick Up Limes, Limes Like Lemon, and I want to shout out the host because I think she's amazing. I was watching one of her episodes because, she's who I want to be when I grow up. But seriously, I just appreciate her honesty, her lifestyle, and her values. And she looks like she lives in a really cool part of the world. She lives in the Netherlands, and I've been there, and it just looks like a really cool place to live. In this episode, she introduces her listeners to a speech called The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. Earl Nightingale explains that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. I'm going to repeat what Earl Nightingale says again. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Earl Nightingale states that if a person is working towards a predetermined goal and knows where they are going, they are a success. I encourage you to go and listen to Earl Nightingale's speech, The Strangest Secret. It's about 30 minutes long and it's well worth it. I believe if you've listened to it once, you'll go back and listen to it over and over again. I realized after listening to this that it doesn't actually matter what your label is, how big your home is, or what your relationship status is. It doesn't matter if your child goes to a private school or a state school. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank once your needs are met. None of that matters as long as you are pursuing the life that you really want to pursue. It took me so long to figure out for myself that that is what success is. So when you feel like you're being constantly compared to other people, and maybe sometimes if we're honest and you're like me, we compare ourselves, right? We compare ourselves all the time to other people, but that does such a number on your mental health because we were not born to be like everybody else. You were not born to be like everyone else. And I think we miss the fact that when a lifestyle is being shown on TV or in a commercial or on social media or whatever medium that it's being shown on, it's to sell something. It's to make money. It's not based in reality. This brings me to a docufilm that I sought out during the pandemic. The documentary film was called Happy. And if you haven't seen it, please go to justdothedamnthing.com and go to the Get Inspired page, and you'll see that I have the docufilm on there. This docufilm, Happy, is really about people all around the world that have very different circumstances. They live in completely different parts of the world and have different income levels, but they are at the optimal happiness. I remember this one particular woman in the documentary, and to summarize, she had a nasty argument with a sister-in-law, and completely by accident, her hand got trapped in a truck. She was dragged by her sister-in-law without her realizing several meters and ended up having the truck run over her face. She fell upon some really hard times and obviously had to have a lot of reconstructive surgeries. And unfortunately, on top of that, her husband ended up leaving her. She had been, quote, successful, and she was certainly living the American dream before this all happened. She was objectively and societally beautiful, and at one time had been a beauty pageant winner, and everything was shattered in one day. She now had to deal with the aftermath of her looks, and essentially her life as she knew it was destroyed. She talked about the fact that at some point she had considered suicide, but that she had decided to wait because she wanted to get through certain events in her life first. For whatever reason, she decided that she wasn't going to go through with it. That was not the route that she was going to go down. Years later, she met a man, fell in love, and said that the reason why they got together in the first place is that he just named the elephant in the room. He said, "Hey, can you even smell out of your nose?" He was referring to the fact that she had had so many reconstructive surgeries that she didn't really have the full nose in the way that she had before. And that made her laugh. And it gave her the sense that he wasn't afraid to joke with her. They both got married, and this for her was the love of her life. She said that she was so much happier after those tragic sequence of events than she had been before. She now dedicates herself to physical therapy and is so happy purely because she has a sense of purpose. Earl Nightingale also says something else that's quite profound. He says the opposite to courage isn't cowardice, but conformity. In other words, if you are blindly going along with everyone else in society and you're conforming and what you're doing isn't actually what you choose, then that is not the definition of success. So, how do you define success for yourself? Well, it starts by blocking out the noise. You need to forget what everyone else has to say about what you should and shouldn't be doing. And the second thing is, you need to ask yourself this important question and answer it with brutal honesty. What do you really want in life? Because the best place to start defining what success means to you is being honest with yourself. Only then can you truly know what success means to you. One of the things I like to encourage is the expand it game. I call it a game because then you'll be more expansive as opposed to restrictive in your thinking. Anytime we're thinking about what we really want to do in life, we have this tendency to think, oh, well, I can't say that because it's too impossible. Or, well, I can't do that. That's not realistic. I'm asking you to put no restrictions on what it is you really want to do when you do this exercise, because you need to think as expansively as possible. So here's how we're going to do it. I understand that some of you might be on a jog right now. I understand that some of you may be in the car. And maybe some of you are just not in a position where you're able to grab a pen. And that's okay. But whenever you do get an opportunity to get a pen and a piece of paper, I highly recommend writing down what we're going to do next. So the first place to start with this expansive game is to think about your ideal day. What would that look like? What would you do? Where would you go? Who would you be with? Why would you be doing that? And what would you need to do to make that happen? How would you feel if you achieved this? So once you've answered those questions, you're going to then move on to the next step, which is to start thinking about your ideal year. What would that look like? What would you do? Where would you go? Who would you be with? Why would you be doing that? And what would you need to do in order to make this happen? How would you feel if you achieved this? Finally, you're going to expand out once more, but this time you're going to do it in terms of your life. So, what would your ideal life look like? What would you do? Where would you go? Who would you be with? Why would you be doing that? And what would you have to do in order to make this happen? And how would you feel if you achieved this? Once you've done this exercise, you're going to be able to look really closely to your answers, and you're going to have much more of an idea of what you really want to do with the rest of your life. And it's important to realize that I understand that you have relationships and other people's needs to consider in your life, but I've got some news for you. This is your life. And so you have to start by getting an idea of what you want out of your life. And then we can weave other people back into it. But if we don't even factor in what we really want and we're just going along with the flow, like the people in the matrix that are still plugged in, that's not going to work. So I hope that you got from this episode some real steps that you can take to start thinking about what you want out of life and to stop sleepwalking through life, as so many of us, including myself, often do. And with that said, we're at the end of our episode. I hope you found this episode helpful, and I'll catch you on the other side. Thanks for listening to our episode. Do yourself a favor. Go to justdothedamnthing.com, click on the Get Inspired page, and there you'll find a number of resources that will give you the inspiration that you need to look at life in a completely different way, including PDFs that you can print out that will help you to be more specific about what you want. On that website, you'll also see all of our social media links, including all the different platforms that you can listen to this podcast. However you're listening today, I need you to do me a favor. Please click the like, subscribe, and comment down below. And of course, share with your friends and loved ones. Until next time, just do the damn thing.